Hello YouTube, this is Shirley426 and today we have the review of the newly released 30-minute mission, Spinatia Fencer type. So, previously we had a new third faction in the 30-minute mission kits, and the previous two were the spinatio units. One was being a Sengoku type, the second being the ninja type. And now we finally got our third version, which is called the Spinatia. And basically, if the spinatio was a male, in easier terms, the Spinatia would be more of a female-esque unit. So I hope that doesn't really offend anybody, but that's just the basic way of saying it. So this is called the Fencer type, which is kind of interesting because the first two units were definitely like had a Japanese, vibe into it, like a samurai and ninja. But this one being a Fencer type kind of breaks that gap. But oh well. All right, so now let's get off the rotating stand and let's start with comparisons right off the bat. So as usual, like the previous two, you get a base unit and then you get a bunch of these armor parts that you can attach on. So let's see what we got. But as I mentioned before, we go over the parts, so let's do some comparisons. So height-wise, I thought this was going to be a slightly shorter kit, but no, they're actually in terms of equal height. Now currently this is the base unit Spinatio for the ninja type, and the only reason why it may seem slightly bigger is because I think it's just the overall head being slightly larger. But as you can see, every part you see here, maybe other than the crotch area or the waist area, everything else is pretty much new parts. Of course, the joints are like the shoulder joints, the side joints, those are exactly the same. But what I mean is like the armor or the arms. So you can see obviously the head is a new design, the body, the chest is a new design, even even the main middle, the waist section is a new design. These parts seems identical as far as I know. The arms are new designs, the legs are new designs, even the feet are new designs, because the original Spinatia had these flat feet, while this one has a much more taller, high-heeled type feet going on here as well. So yeah, you can definitely say it's not like a remold this time. So this is like a new variant, if you ask me. Alright, now regarding the armor, it's still the same situation where if you want to apply the armor, you have to swap out the joints here, because the way how you attach the shoulder armor joint is basically you clip onto this section right over here between the between the shoulder and the ball joint. You basically clip onto this middle section here, and currently the one that you use on the base form does not have this extra gap, so you cannot apply that. So I'll be showing you guys that later, what it looks like after you apply the armor. But now let's see what you get from the box. So first of all, obviously you get the Spinatia unit. Now color wise, we are getting a black and white version, and the visor being a nice dark, I'm gonna say now on the camera, because of the color combination between black and the clear piece, it looks red, but technically it's actually more of a pinkish color. So hopefully this kind of gives you the proper idea on the color on the visor. Alright, so first of all, let's leftover parts. So we get two leftover ball joints. This is nothing too special. We've seen these before. And then we get this part as a leftover. If those who don't remember what this part is, it's basically the same part that you basically store in the katana or the sword on the Sengoku type. So yeah, we get a white version as well, and then we get these two parts, which I do not, for some reason I cannot remember where it was from. But yeah, we do get these two parts as leftover parts, and let's see what we got. So let's go over the basic one. So number one, you get two fully open hands, one each for left and right, nothing too special there. And then we get a angled hand here. So if you want to hold your weapon in a more specific way, you use this as well. Alright, now let's look at the armor parts. So number one, let's go over the weapons. So we get two of these swords, which calling the Fencer type, hence we get like these fencing type swords, I guess. Or I don't think these are these considered rapiers or not, but I'm not the best expert in terms of weapons. But yeah, these look like ones that you don't really slash, but rather you stab with. So that's that. And then we also have these. One side there's no peg, but on the other side there is a peg here. So hopefully that helps some people out. And here we have the two shoulder units as well. Once again, if you want to apply these, you need to change out the ball joint on the shoulders. Nothing too special on the shoulders. They typically on the armor, these look like typical armor shoulder armor parts. And let's see what we got. So here we have the face mask. So one thing I would like to mention that now before for the spinatio types, for spinatio Sengoku or ninja type, we would usually have a single peg on the top here to connect to the head. But this one actually has these multiple pegs going on here. So one of the few parts I could not apply this to. These were one of those few parts that I could not apply to the spinatio unit. So you're going to need to do some modding if you want to use this on the spinatio. Here we have the crotch area guard piece that's white for some reason, and then here we have the chest piece, a little bit small, but it kind of makes sense. This one is the I believe this one goes onto the back skirt as well. And then these are now as much these would look like some sort of side armor. No, these actually goes onto the arm, so you'll see it later. And yeah, because of that aspect, it does kind of hinder one aspect regarding the figure regarding the kit. And this one is basically, I would assume these works as basically both wings and capes. So this one goes onto the back. Alright, so we've seen the components. Now let's see the articulation. So the articulation is pretty much what you expect. If you have built any previous 30-minute mission kits, you should know how they work. So a little more, let's look at the head. The head, once again, compared to the spinatio unit itself, the head is definitely much larger, if you ask me. Much more bulkier and larger. And it has these cat ear type looks going on here. So cat ear designs. I think that's a nice touch. So the head can go down that much, up pretty well, and then 360 is possible despite the size because it is on the ball joint. Now the body, we still have your typical top body ab crunch going on here. You can go side to side if you want to do so, and then you can go 360 on the entire arm because it is a ball joint connection, so forward and backward movement is no problem. 360 twist on the lower arm as well, and then we get a nice bend going on here, and typical ball jointed hands. Now you are able to rotate the lower section if you want to do so. And then once again, being the base unit, we don't actually have specific or proper side skirts or front skirts or back skirts at the moment. And then we get a nice side swivel going on here. You can go to the side more than 90 degrees. And then once again, the connection here allows you to reposition the position of the leg. So if you want to make it look taller, be my guest. Side swivel is still possible, and then we can go about 90 degrees up front on the base position, and then a lot to the back. So that's pretty good. And bend wise, we get a very nice bend on the legs. And once again, looking at the feet, we have there's no polycaps on the feet as far as I remember, so because you only get ball joints here. So these are all connected to plastic ball joints, so you have a nice forward and backward movement going on here, and we should have a pretty decent pivot going on here. Not exactly the best, but considering the design of the feet, it is possible to get a pivot here, right over here on the specific when you bend it in a more specific direction. So yeah, there's no separate toe bend like when you compare it to Gunpla. So yeah, because the feet is pretty much a single piece. Alright, so now we've seen the basic articulation on the unit. Basically, yeah, it's pretty much our standard 30-minute mission kit base unit. And once again, we have multiple holes. I think this one has less holes compared to the spinatio because just looking at the back, for example, on the back there's only one hole, while the spinatio has 3 holes. The back of the arms are still holes there. Still, I think the back still is pretty much almost identical, except for there's less holes on the main body. And yeah, when looking at the front, I say on the top and body it's okay, but on the sides it's lacking. Sides and legs is lacking the extra ports there. Alright, so now we've seen the basic unit of the Spinatia. I'll be right back with the armor applied to make it into the fencer type. Okay, I'm back. So currently I have the armor parts applied to the Spinatia, and according to the manual, yes, these are technically rapiers, and the Spinatias are more based on the mobility rather than the offensive side, so you can kind of get what they're meant for. So here we have the armor parts. To be honest, the only part that I am not the biggest fan of is the head, because that head piece is just way too big. I mean, the head is already big, but applying the armor like that just makes it even much more bigger. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. Alright, so something just failed off, but hopefully that doesn't happen again. So, currently here we have the armor. The other parts are pretty much typical. Here we have the front crotch part, we have the chest part, the shoulder part, and the back part as well. So, articulation still is the same, but as I mentioned before, if you want to apply the shoulder armors, you must swap out the ball joint. because there's no clearance to attach the clips without doing that. So here we have the rapier. Now, according to the manual, you are able to actually store the rapier on the shoulder parts, but I say that's not the best place, to be honest, because once again, you can see it's barely close. It's almost close touching to the horns on the face or on the mask, so not the best area if you ask me. Now, another part that I do like the design, but once again, because of these extra armor parts that goes onto the arm here, you can't really hold the rapier entirely. You have to like hold it in mid position or a little bit up to get some extra clearance for the hands to move freely. So I do feel like this is not the best design, but still I say I mean, for the first one they did an okay job. So yeah, so you are able to dual wield it if you want to do so, and yeah. And once again, for these back sections here, these are supposed to be, I'm assuming what the manual says are for stabilizers and whatnot. So yeah, these are also those. So you can move them up and down like that. And since they are on a peg, you are able, oops, sorry about that, not the entire back, but you are able to rotate them side to side if you want to do so. And yeah, I keep having this problem where the ball joints on the hands are slightly weak on mine, especially on the left arm. So hopefully this is not the same case for everybody, because yeah, that would be bad. Alright, so let's take off the hand. So other than that, what you can do is that since there are these multiple ports going on here, I would assume you can at least store a few rapiers on other sections right over here or onto the back skirt as well. So it's really up to you on where to choose to store the rapiers. The 30-minute mission kits are meant for customization as much as possible, so it's pretty much only your imagination that is limiting you. So on my reviews regarding the 30-minute mission kits, I do not show everything what you can do with them, because that would just take too much time. But just keep in mind that these are meant to be customized in your desire. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the review. Now, I could technically apply this. We could swap out armor parts with the spinatio, like let's say for the ninja type. So let's see what we get for results. So I'll be right back so that we can swap out some armor parts. This fencer armor to the spinatio, and the spinatio's ninja type armor to the spinatia. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I tried swapping off the armors, and there were some limitations, and currently, as you can see, some parts are pretty much just slapped on there, not exactly the perfect fit, and some parts are not really a tight fit. Some parts are loose and they're trying to fall off. So let me just give you a brief part where what part did not apply. So number one, for the spinatia, you cannot apply the original mask for the ninja type because number one, it's very small compared to the head. Number two, the pegs don't really match up. So I can kind of force it, but once again, it really doesn't make any sense when you look at it. So on camera, it may look sense, but as you look at the side, yeah, it's not exactly covering the entire head. So the mask is small, and you cannot. It's not a perfect fit. Number two, these white armors that were originally on the lower leg of the on the spinatio. The spinatia does not have those ports, hence you cannot apply these. So those were the parts I could not apply to the spinatia. But once again, after applying a few armor parts, here's another problem. Because of the chest or the main body design, these parts you can technically apply the back part with no problem, but the front part, it barely fits because it doesn't really match up the body shape. And number two, because of this smaller body, there's not enough clearance for the shoulder armors to actually move freely. So you can see they're constantly colliding with each other. So not the best ideal combination here. The rest, well, they kind of seem to work. Now on the other way around, so I try to apply as much as possible onto the spinatio unit. The only part that I could not apply was the face mask, because as I mentioned, the pegs, there's more pegs, and the position on them are very different for the head, so you cannot apply them. So the chest part, the chest armor piece, I think this might be a peg problem. It's just very loose, and it tends to rotate on its own. So that's that. Now the armor parts that were supposed to be on the arm, they do not fit onto the spinatio arm. So yeah, I just slapped them onto the side, but once again, they're not the best fit. They just fall off really easily. Front skirt, no problem at all. Shoulder parts, no problem at all. This backpack part, well, it's not a perfect fit. It's a little bit wiggly, but if I like force it, it does work work around. So currently it's supposed to be like this, but just to give it a different vibe, I rotated about 180 degrees. Back skirt armor, no problem as well. So yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I would not recommend just trying to swap armors with the Spinatia units. Maybe the Spinatia does require like specific armor units that are, you know, compatible with the main body, because as you can see, some parts fit but some parts don't, mainly because of the, like, for example, the body design is different. So you could slap it on, but it could also make new problems, like having these clearance issues. But once again, if you're a big fan of these 30-minute mission kits, and if you want these parts for a different reason, you can totally do that as well. And I'm definitely looking forward for more of these units. I believe there's another one that's coming out with a white and pink combination color, and I assume that's the assassin type. I'm looking forward for that as well. And then I believe from the Earth's Federation Force, for the 30-minute mission storyline or lore, there's a new like unit coming out pretty soon, so I'm also looking forward for that as well. Anyway, this was the review of the 30-minute mission Spinatia Fencer type. If you guys got any questions or requests, leave a comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.